Do you want to grow a year's worth of food? Well, this is the video for you. We've got tons of strategies here, from trellising all the way over to improving soil health, that are designed to help you have your ideal goal of growing a year's worth of food. Succession sowing, or sowing in general, is one of the most important ways that we're going to be growing a year's worth of food. And one of the most important things is that we always have plug ready to put out for when we've got any spaces. Succession growing can actually increase the amount that you can grow by 35% in a small garden. So being able to grow like this is a massive advantage for all growers. It can also reduce the amount of seedlings lost by 80% if you do it correctly, which means hardening it off. It also means that our seedlings get a 6 to 8 week head start above, say, what we could sow if they were going into the ground right now. So instead of putting them in as vulnerable tiny little seedlings or as germinated seeds, we can put them out as big, large starts, which will give them a fighting chance against, say, slugs and snails. Starting things off in a more controlled condition will also allow us to get bigger and stronger and healthier starts. When we do plant them out, they have a really good foundation to carry on and grow. It's super important to succession sow certain things like lettuce, because I don't want a big massive amount of lettuce all in one go. Things like cauliflower and broccoli, I really like a big glut of them because I really like sticking them all in the freezer. We have quite a lot of freezer space, so it go in all at the one time. And then I'm only sitting there doing it for like a day. It's just easier for me. We like to sow our lettuce seeds about every 2 weeks. That gives us a lot of nice fresh leaves. This time of year is really good time to grow lettuce because it's not too hot. When it gets too hot, they tend to bolt, which means go to seed. These seedlings that I've gone ahead and sown, I'm going to take these down to my greenhouse so that I have them in these trays for about 4 to 6 weeks before I transfer them. Are you sowing anything directly this spring? If so, let us know down below. Sowing direct is a really good strategy of having a year's worth of food, and the main reason for this is you've always got something to go in the ground. You don't want any spaces that are vacant and unproductive. This means you can intersow seeds into plants that are about to be harvested so that you already have them establishing. A 2019 study in crop science stated beans that are sown directly have a 15% better root system than if you transfer them. So it's well worth utilising. Are you sowing anything directly this spring? If so, let us know down below. Hardening off is one of the strategies we're going to be utilising that really boosts the amount of food that we're able to produce. Hardening off your crops fuels their ability to withstand the weather. Hardening off plants is just the process of taking them in and out of your place that you have grown them. Greenhouse, grow tent or windowsill. You put them in shade to start off with for 2 hours and then you double it 4 hours the next day, which means 8 hours, etc., all the way through until you have them out overnight. Now, you want to only do this when it's nice and warm. Between 10 and 15 degrees is ideal, because you don't want them to be subjected to frost, especially your frost tender crops. So if you start them off in grow lights, they're just not used to the intensity of our sun and even wind. Especially if you haven't used a fan, your seedlings aren't used to being blown about. Hardening off reduces lost seedlings by up to 80%. It also stops them being stunted. Stunting's where they go from growing beautifully to absolutely stopping for a little while until they climatise with the environment that you've just thrown them into. Think about it, they've gone from the perfect environment, a beautiful warm windowsill, a lovely warm grow tent or even a greenhouse, and you've thrown them out into the elements, and it is very shocking for them. And plants, when they're stressed, they either bolt, which means they go to seed, which you don't want for things like cabbages, or become stressed or even die. Hardening off crops can actually prevent plants from dying by 70 to even 95%, because the act of hardening them off and getting them used to the outside world not only will produce more chlorophyll used for photosynthesis or for growth, but it also strengthens their cell walls, which gives them structure and stops them flopping over. Literally, if you take just a week to harden off your crops, then you'll get a massive boost to your harvest in the summer, and that's what it's all about, right? Not just you get more crops, but you get better and more nutrient dense crops. And it's what we're all about, doing more for less. What seedlings are you hardening off right now? Let me know down below. Vertical gardening is one technique that really makes the biggest impact to your yield or how much you can grow. Studies in 2020 showed you can actually increase your yield by 25% in tomatoes because they get better light when they're grown upright and they're less likely to get diseases like blight. So we're going to go through here, and I've got a cover crop, as you can see, everywhere is like nice and green. So these are parsnips that I've used as a cover crop. We got absolutely tons of parsnip seeds last year. So I thought, well, why waste them? Chucked them on. You can only use parsnips for one season anyway. And now it's time for them to go. I'm going to go and hoe that up, spread out the black plastic. Yes, I'm still using black plastic here, but look, we're slowly transitioning away from black plastic, but I'm going to hold my hands up and say, yes, I do take shortcuts in the garden. I'm going to be building alley frames here, or A-frames. I call them alley frames. Got the idea from Ali at the Right Pear Plot. I did this last year, it worked out so well. It was so easy to keep the tomatoes up off the floor. So I'm going to do the same this year, and I was surprised how tall your frame had to be. So this frame here is only about 5 foot, which surprised me because I thought it'd have to be a little bit taller, but it worked out absolutely fine. I ended up topping up my tomatoes, and we don't struggle with growing tomatoes. Tomatoes is the crop that is very dependable for us. But saying that, we do want to grow a few more tomatoes than normal. We do about 74 tomatoes each year. This year we're going to do something like 115. I know what you're thinking, that is a lot of tomatoes, but we're self-sufficient in every single type of tomato that you can think of, from ketchup to barbecue sauce to tomato sauce for pasta, you name it. This is the cheapest way that I could think of to trellis my tomatoes, because I really do think that trellising and just gardening in general should be accessible for the normal person. And I didn't want to go and spend hundreds on a rented space. These bamboo stakes are only a couple of pence each. I've got the 5 foot ones for going across and a 7 foot one that goes along. And I use old ones to brace them. A packet of cable ties would last me a couple of years, and I know that quite a few of you will probably disagree with me using cable ties. I just don't think that I can tie them by myself, and I can never guarantee anyone to come down here and help me. And between moving the camera, looking after Andrew, he's playing in the shade over there, and doing this, I just don't know if I could do it. And I think, why put in barriers to growing? You know, why shame people if they're using black plastic or a couple of tape cable ties? I think it's amazing. If I get anything grown here, I just think it's epic. And that's not me throwing shade at anyone who has a beautiful garden. I know Claire from the Farmyard Garden has a beautiful garden, but that's at her house. So this whole entire setup probably cost us £30–40, like, if not less. Thank you Fitfeel for sponsoring this video. I genuinely love these shoes. They feel just like an old pair of trainers that you've broken in. You know, like the ones that you love so much and your partner's like, they need to go. That's how these feel from day one. I haven't had a single blister from them, which has never happened. I've got really wide feet and I struggle to find shoes that don't want to like cut off a toe. So if you fancy grabbing a pair of these Fitfeel shoes, then I'll leave a link in the description below. The next strategy we're going to look at is the 3 sisters. We have sister corn, we have pumpkins or winter squash, and we have beans. This strategy is a powerhouse to growing more food in a limited space. What we're going to be doing is we're going to be planting corn about a foot apart. We've got 2 types of corn. We've got sweet corn and we've got popcorn. Sweet corn needs to be planted in blocks so that it pollinates correctly. If you just put it in rows, then you will not get as big corn and half the corn kernels will not develop. Because corn is such a hungry feeder, we've amended this soil with duck bedding, and we'll go through and fertilise in a couple of weeks. And each corn is going to have a bean growing up it. You can have 1 to 2 beans, but we're going to go for 1 bean each. It has to be a climbing variety. For every 4 feet on the outside, we're going to have 1 type of squash. We're going to do several different types of squash. For all of the varieties that I'm sowing, I'm going to put them down below. Crop rotation and improving soil. Health is wealth. If it's soil or if it's your health, it's so important to have really healthy soil. So every single autumn, we go ahead and amend all of the soil beds, adding organic matter and mulch, and we're building soil and not eroding soil. Having healthy soil breeds healthy plants. Healthy plants don't get sick. Healthy plants have more nutrients in them and overall are better for us. Most of the time we're doing a no-dig method, which is supposedly meant to increase the overall amount that you can grow year after year after year. But when we talk about soil, lots of people talk about it like it's a sterile environment. And as a geologist, I'm telling you that it's absolutely not. There is more bacteria and microbes in a teaspoon of compost than there are stars in the sky. Rotating your plants actually give those microbes different types of plants to interact with. Rotating crops will cut down pests by 30%. It will also increase the amount that you harvest by 10 to 20%. So it is something that we've started to see is fundamental here on the allotment. For years I didn't do it, but I did see a steadily declining overall yield of my staple crop. Storage crops are an absolute game changer when it comes to growing a year's worth of food because they're so easy and versatile crops. But storage crops tend to be really easy to store, calorie dense, like potatoes and sweet potatoes. And you don't need a root cellar or any sort of fancy equipment to store them. So carrots are fantastic. You just pop them into bags and they're fine in the fridge, sealed up. Potatoes store in garages very, very well. The most important thing about my potatoes is we're going to be doing them in stages. We don't want to have a glut of potatoes. So I'm growing first early, second earlies and main crop. If we had them all in one time, they wouldn't store throughout the winter. So we are going to have a really big focus of growing tons and tons and tons of storage crops so that we can hit our goal. So what is your focus in your garden? Is it for storage crops or is it for like fancy lettuces and more expensive crop? Let us know down below. One of the strategies we're going to use to grow a year's worth of food is season extensions. Everything from greenhouses to cold frames. Season extensions are fundamental, particularly in early spring and later on in the season. These raised beds that we've made for jasmine are particularly good at having the ability to extend the season. Not only are they up off the ground, so therefore there's less likelihood of the soil being waterlogged, but we can put plastic covers over them to warm the soil before we plant out in a couple of weeks' time. Cold frames like the ones that we're making here can actually extend the harvest for up to 6 weeks, making 40% more food, which when your goal is to grow a year's worth of food really does impact your bottom line massively. And if you like this video, I've picked this one out. It's all about growing a year's worth of perennials and I thought you'd like it.